come up with personal and population specific healthcare or equitable person and population specific healthcare, equitable person and population specific health and well-being regardless of location.
I think read only the last one.
Okay, the last one is what we finalized. Equitable person and population specific health and well-being regardless of location is what we as a group define as global health. Anything that is like that?
So that definition covers the main issues as we talked about: equity, interdisciplinary, diversity, adaptability, humility, and neglected situation, refugee camps and so on, and other sectors, including whether it's politicians, ASH, and so on. And the outcome is, repeat the global health definition.
Equitable person and population specific healthcare and well-being regardless of location.
So those are the tools to get there. Okay. Then you go to question number 2. So you can go to the second point.
So we discussed about what it would take to develop a global health curriculum. First thing that we discussed was stakeholders. So it would take all the stakeholders to come together. So stakeholders being the students, the teachers, the policymakers, the community.
And literature review, look at the gaps.
Yes, look at the gaps.
Look at the written one. So all these are needed. As you're coming up with a global health curriculum, you have to consider the various stakeholders. Okay. So, go on.
We also talked about a compendium of courses. So components of courses that can be put together by anybody depending on what the requirement at that local area is. So not developing a common course, but core components, and they can be put together depending on your local requirements or local situation.
Okay.
Yes, and we also talked about competencies that global health should have. So we didn't have enough time to describe discuss about each competency, but that is something that we need to look into also. Those components we got into. Experiential learning is something that we've discussed. So global health is something that cannot be taught, is what we thought. It is something you learn better if you experience it. Some examples cropped up. So we learn in good hospitals, we learn in wards and OTs that are fully equipped, but that doesn't equip us to work in areas that don't have those facilities, right? So giving exposure to low resource settings, to other countries where the student is able to learn by his own experience, and then be a better student and a better doctor there.
An adaptable student.
Yes,
Who
adaptable
can adapt to different situations because they have experience. You can't experience everything, but the examples that change the way you think and change your experience. For example, the students I talked to at tea time, they said when they first came here and they were sent to our community, they were shocked at sleeping in a room 2 feet by 3 feet with 20 people, all with different backgrounds and toilet facilities that were not their best. But over time, now they love their villages. When they first came, they were a bit hardish because it's not what they were used to. That makes them adaptable to different situations. They would adapt to a disaster. They would adapt to a patient collapsing in an aeroplane because they have learned to be adaptable. They are being transformed by some experiences that transform them. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Harriet and Ashwini. Again, before we move to the next group, any questions for that group or any points to clarify?
I think the stakeholder, they have missed two important stakeholders. One is healthcare provider and another is policy maker. Because academia and community alone cannot bring the global health to mainstream, we require the support of healthcare provider, both public and private, as well as the policy maker or health manager.
We had politicians, social scientists, journalists, religious leaders, etc., etc. So we have adapted.
But actually, when what is presented there, we did not listen to that.
Okay, so can I call on group one? Either Jenny or someone from that group would like to report back. Dr. Abhishek, it's your privilege.
Thank you. I am representing our group, the group 1, and again we discussed the same questions. So first question that we deliberated on was what do we understand by global health, and this is the common understanding to which all of us agreed. So we believe that global health is a set of generic competencies which will ensure health for all across boundaries. So this basically we thought helps us to capture the essence of global health, and this will help us to take care of disparities. The other group also talked about the inequities. It will help us to talk of or take care of the global threats. The Ebola, SARS, HIV were some of the examples that were discussed, the current examples that were discussed. And then the other threats to which a community might be exposed. So maybe it could be refugees, it could be the communal violence. So we need to prepare our students for that as well. There was some deliberation on whether the curriculum would be, how easy or how difficult it would be to frame the curriculum for the undergraduates versus postgraduates. In the allotted time, we could not come to any definite conclusion. But all of us agreed that it would be more easier to do for the postgraduates, considering that curriculum for the postgraduates is much more flexible. There is much more liberty that is available currently in the Indian context for adapting a new global health curriculum. The undergraduate curriculum as of now is more structured, and therefore it restricts the freedom. And the group thought that it might be more challenging to adapt the universal global health curriculum of the undergraduates. The second question was, is it possible to have universal global health curriculum? And the answer was a definite yes. All of us thought that yes, it's possible. Then there was a suggestion that it should not be a very strict or stringent or a prescriptive curriculum, but they should the curriculum should be in the form of a generic guiding framework, and the implementation of that should be left to the local medical schools or the universities regarding how they'll impart those competencies to their own students. And some of the competencies that we tried to enumerate as a part of global health curriculum were competencies related to research, communication skills, leadership skills, professionalism, self-directed learning, ethics, the basic clinical skills, reflective practitioner, and critical thinking. I think that's it from our group. If I've missed anything, I request other group members to add.
Thank you, Abhishek. Any questions, clarifications?
I think it's interesting, given the people that are here, that none of us mentioned
And it would be helpful to have medical educators involved in either developing the curriculum or developing the faculty or evaluating students.
I think that's a very good point, Hi, and I think given the interests and profile of many of the people in that room, maybe in this room, maybe it's just because it's a given that educators will be there helping to develop the curriculum. But it's good to just clarify and remind us. Any other questions? Don't worry.
I may be a medical educator starting to get into action now, but when I think of competencies, is being a reflective practitioner a competence, a competency? Okay. And critical thinking is a competence? Okay.
Okay, so the final group, I think it would be unfair of me just to pick on anyone or ask anyone else to report back because we didn't agree that in the group. So with Group 2's permission, I'll give the report back on our discussion. And it's interesting how we talked, listening to the report back from other groups, we talked about the same things and maybe we talked about some different things. And my reflection from our group's decision was quite remarkable actually on how very quickly we came to a consensus on what, not only what global health is, but why we should need it. And I think when I reflect on that discussion, for me it's a question of how we frame concepts of global health. So one thing we didn't get into, and I wasn't sure if we would or not, was a discussion about labels. Is global health really community health? Is that what you mean? Is it international health? Is that what you mean? Is it aspects of public health? Well, it might be aspects of all of those. But actually, we didn't discuss it in terms of labels. We started from the point, are there health problems that you face in India, Bangladesh, or Israel, or United States, or any of the countries we're from, that we share in common? Let's think about climate change. Is climate change affecting India and Bangladesh and the UK? Yes, it is, and we all agree that. So what about nutrition? Poor nutrition, too much nutrition, too many calories. Are long-term conditions related to nutrition? Are these problems in your countries as they are in ours? Yes, they are. So we very quickly established food security, water security, long-term conditions, infectious diseases, mental health as problems that we all share. And that's global health. That's what we've been talking about today. And aspects of this are already in our curriculum. Just we may not have labelled them yet as global health. So we quickly came to a consensus about what we mean by global health and why we all think it's important. So then we started the really exciting and the difficult job, how we're going to get there. And someone in our group mentioned about sensitizing stakeholders. And I made a point of remembering that expression just because I liked it. We didn't list all the stakeholders, but we listed some of the important ones. There are politicians, but there are also our public. Our public, which includes our patients and ourselves, our professional groups, and many others as well, our regulators. These are important stakeholders. And the group felt that sensitizing those to some of the issues, the realities of things that we look outside and we can see that are affecting our health, is going to be one of the steps, one of the ways of getting to where we want to go. And of course, because we're all responsible institutions with accredited courses, we have to influence the regulators and the accreditors as well. And let's not underestimate that that could be a difficult job, or it might at least take a lot of skill, high-level skills and advocacy to bring about that kind of institutional national curriculum transformation and change. But just because it's hard doesn't mean we should try to do it if we believe it's the right thing to do. But the way in which we finished up the group is thinking, well, okay, these are the difficult problems, but if they're hard, we should attempt to do them. But what can we do today? What can we do tomorrow? Are there things already in our curriculum, are areas of teaching responsibility that we can perhaps reframe or contextualize in the context of global health? And again, very quickly, we came to consensus, yes, there are. So whether you're teaching basic science, mental health, women's health, children's health, you can think about how some of these problems, and we had a list as well, but we didn't have it as neatly written as here, are felt every day when you're working with patients and clients on their nutritional state and all these other things. So perhaps we can, if we rethink the way we teach our existing curriculum, and perhaps think about how it might be reframed with the golden thread of global health running through, if we want to use that label, or if we give it another label. And these are things that we can do tomorrow. So we can work on the really hard problems, convince the regulators, or we can change things tomorrow. And then that resonated with something from this morning's keynote from Dr. Mishra. Remember what Dr. Mishra told us? A very famous saying from Gandhiji, be the change you want to see in the world. If we believe these things are important, let's work on it. So that was where we got to in our 45 minutes. And listening to all of the groups, I'm amazed on how much we were able to do with just 45 minutes discussion. So just think what we could do with a whole day of discussion. And that's what we're... I'm sorry?
How much agreement between the group?
Not just how much discussion took place, but how much agreement, how much consensus, and how many ideas of the potential way forward. We did that in a short amount of time. Tomorrow we have a whole day. And after tomorrow, we've got a lot more time as well. So perhaps if there are any questions for this report back from Group 2, or any final comments or questions on this session, then I would like to hand over to Dr. Bisham. Just hand back to Dr. Bisham just to perhaps draw us to a close for today, and then we'll look forward to carrying on the discussion tomorrow. And who knows where we'll get to by this time tomorrow. So, thank you.
If there is no more question, should we call it a day? Thank you everybody for joining us, and everybody is invited for dinner in Arogyadam at 8 p.m. Those who are staying in guest house, vehicle will be available 7:45, and those who are staying in Arogyadam, I think they don't require vehicle. And others also, say those who have come from outside, we request you to join for dinner in case it is possible.
In our groups yesterday, unfortunately, we didn't have enough time to think more deeply about what some of these global health competencies or framework that we might strive to, if we are interested in achieving a universal global health curriculum or framework for curricula. Some ideas were generated, but not every group had an opportunity to develop those fully. So if you will recall yesterday at the beginning, when Dr. Robert Borba gave our introduction of the Bellagio group, if you'll recall, this is a group of international educators. And over the years, we have come up with a suggested recommendation of global health competencies, or again, you might think of it as a framework. What are these skills that would be required for then an institution to work with these and figure out how they would be implemented in their own context? This is not suggested to be a definitive list by any means, but it is the work of a group of us that have worked on this. And what we would love to ask for you to do today is we will keep this board here on the side. We'd like very much to invite you to take a look at this list. And if you believe that some of the things on here are indeed important for inclusion in a global health framework, remember this is a global health education framework for medical education at an undergraduate level, we'd like to ask you kindly to put a check mark. If you look at it and you think, I don't think this is something that should be included at all, please feel free to put some kind of an X or something that indicates to us that you're not necessarily in agreement with that particular one. And we have purposefully left space here because we'd like to invite you to add to this list. This, again, is a wonderful opportunity for us to hear your voice and your perceptions on this concept of universal global health curriculum and what it needs to include. So again, as the day progresses, and then at the end of the day, in our wrap-up, we'll come back and visit your input, and we'll have a bit of a discussion about this. So thank you so much, Dr. Bisham, for the opportunity to invite folks to engage with this throughout the day, and give you back the mic.
Thank you, Jenny. So before we start the discussion or presentation, let me introduce the speakers for today. We have Professor A.M. Qadri. Professor Qadri is Professor and Head Department of Community Medicine at Government Medical College, Rajkot. He is also the Secretary General of Indian Association of Preventive Social Medicine, the association representing the teachers of all the medical colleges along with the other public health professionals. The association in existence for last nearly about 34 years. However, Dr. Kadri has infused a lot of enthusiasm, activity, dynamism to the association. He and his team, at least because in India, the Department of Community Medicine is the corner in all the medical colleges, Association of Preventive Social Medicine, to address the priority health issues of the country and to discharge their social responsibility. Another speaker we have Dr. Rita Sood. Dr. Rita Sood is professor and head Department of Internal Medicine at All India Institute of Medical Sciences. I know Dr. Sood for last 25 years or so, and she is very active in all the fora of promoting medical education in India, in Southeast Asia and internationally also. And she has carried some recognition also on that. Say, in case Medical Council of India is going to have a talk on medical education, there are 4 or 5 persons, one will be Dr. Rita. She is very active on this, say, health professional education network in India and Southeast Asia. She has been the past president of SAME as well as of CRM. She has been instrumental in starting this CRM, and she was the past president of CRM. And at present, she is a professor and head Department of Medicine of a very prestigious institute called so, now, with this introduction, I request the chair to further conduct.
Thanks very much for the session this morning. As you heard, we have 2 speakers and 3 that are listed on the program. I'm going to turn this now to Janet, who's going to describe the format